Nothing. I'm still here.
Daring escapes, meticulous plans, and pure audacity. Today, we recount 10 real-life prison breaks that will blow your mind. These are not just tales of freedom. They are masterclasses in cunning and sheer will. Let's explore. Number 10. Jack Shepherd. Jack Shepherd was a sensation in 18th century London, gaining fame not for his crimes, but for his repeated audacious escapes from custody. Initially pursuing carpentry as a career, by 1723, he decided that a criminal lifestyle offered more allure. Throughout 1724, he managed to break out of prison on 4 separate occasions. After his first arrest, Shepherd proved his escape prowess by breaking through his cell ceiling. Using bedsheets as an improvised rope, he made his way down to freedom in mere hours. However, his freedom was short-lived, as he found himself back behind bars just weeks later. Undeterred, he used his previous technique, removing a window bar and employing the bedsheets to make his exit. His escapades continued even after receiving a death sentence. Notably, he made one daring getaway in disguise, donning women's clothing for subterfuge. Following his last capture, authorities took no chances, burning him with 300 pounds of iron and maintaining constant watch over him. Yet, despite his many escapes, he met his fate on the gallows on November 16, 1724. Number 9. Houdini Hines. In 1953, Alfred George Hines was apprehended for a high-profile jewelry heist and subsequently received a 12-year sentence at Nottingham Prison in England. Although Hines consistently claimed his innocence, it didn't stop him from devising a bold escape. He managed to evade security, sneaking past locked doors and scaling a formidable 20-foot wall to freedom. However, his days as a fugitive were numbered, leading to his recapture 6 months later. Asserting his arrest was unlawful, Hines pursued legal action and was granted a trial. During one court appearance, he cleverly orchestrated another escape. An accomplice discreetly brought in a padlock, setting up a makeshift trap in the washroom. When Hines was escorted to the restroom, he seized the opportunity. As soon as his handcuffs were off, he shoved the unsuspecting guards into the booby-trapped stall, locking them inside. Unfortunately for Hines, his freedom was brief, as he was apprehended at an airport merely 5 hours later. Subsequently, he was transferred to Chelmsford Prison, but Hines' penchant for escapes was undeterred. Within a year, he broke out again. This time, he managed to evade capture for 2 years before finally being detained. He spent the rest of his sentence behind bars. Number 8. The biggest prison escape in British history. The Maze Prison in Northern Ireland was renowned as one of Europe's most secure facilities. It boasted formidable defenses, including towering fences, massive concrete walls, and electronically controlled steel gates. Primarily, it was home to inmates from the Irish Republican Army, many of whom were incarcerated for serious crimes. Yet, on September 25, 1983, the prison's reputation was shattered when 38 IRA inmates staged a daring escape. In the early afternoon, the inmates seized control of their block using covertly smuggled firearms. Less than an hour later, they hijacked a food supply truck, forcing its driver to act as their unwitting accomplice by tying his foot to the vehicle's clutch and making him drive out of the prison grounds. While almost half of the escapees were apprehended in the ensuing days, the others managed to evade capture. Some were eventually located and returned to custody, but due to Northern Ireland's intricate political landscape, the remaining escapees received amnesties. Number 7. Pascal Payet. In 1997, Pascal Payet was involved in an audacious Bank de France armored truck heist, which sadly led to a guard's death. On October 12, 2001, in a scene straight out of an action film, Payet masterminded his escape from prison via a commandeered helicopter. Astonishingly, 2 years later in 2003, using another seized helicopter, he staged a breakout for 3 of his cohorts. These exploits resulted in him receiving a 30-year sentence for the 1997 incident, a 7-year term for the 2003 breakout, and an additional 6 years for his own 2001 escape. Despite becoming one of France's most vigilantly monitored inmates and undergoing frequent prison transfers, Payet's ingenuity seemed boundless. On July 14, 2007, defying the odds yet again, 4 disguised accomplices used a helicopter to extract Payet from his prison in Grasse. However, freedom was short-lived, as within 2 months, authorities located and apprehended him in Mataró, Spain. Presently, Payet's exact location remains a closely guarded secret. Number 6. Richard Matt and David Sweat. On June 6, 2015, 2 inmates, Richard Matt, aged 48, and David Sweat, 34, made a daring escape from Clinton Correctional Facility in Dannemora, New York. Their accomplice, Joyce Mitchell, a 51-year-old worker at the prison's tailor shop, had illicit relationships with both men. She aided their breakout by smuggling in tools and even harbored intentions for them to eliminate her husband, with a grand plan for the trio to vanish together to Mexico. Matt and Sweat ingeniously utilized these tools to create openings behind their cells, granting them access to an elevated catwalk, leading further to various passageways and tunnels. After successfully cutting through a 2-foot diameter pipe, they maneuvered for 400 feet within it, finally emerging outside the prison walls through a manhole in Dannemora. However, their supposed accomplice, Mitchell, failed to meet them, leading to their eventual downfall. While law enforcement fatally shot Matt on June 26th, they managed to apprehend Sweat just 2 days afterward. Number 5. The Great Escape. During World War II, the Germans operated Stalag Luft III, a POW camp primarily for captured Air Force servicemen. In 1943, a bold plan was devised by the inmates for a large-scale escape. They dug 3 tunnels, which they named Tom, Dick, and Harry, positioned deep under the ground to evade detection. These tunnels had ventilation systems for airflow and were illuminated using the camp's electrical supply. Impressively, the prisoners even developed a mini railway within the tunnels to aid the excavation. However, on the escape night of March 24, 1944, things didn't go as planned. Although 200 prisoners aimed to flee, the escape tunnel emerged too close to a guard post and short of the protective forest cover. By the time the 77th individual was emerging, guards noticed the breakout. Tragically, out of the attempted escapees, only 3 evaded capture, 50 were executed, and the others were taken back into custody. Number 4. The Taliban Tunnel. In 2010, the Mujahideen undertook an ambitious project in Kandahar, aiming to liberate numerous Taliban inmates. Over 5 months, they meticulously dug a tunnel spanning 1,000 feet. This incredible feat went right beneath watchtowers, government structures, and razor wire barriers, and even through the prison's concrete foundation. On April 25, 2011, their efforts paid off when 480 inmates escaped through the tunnel in under half an hour. Interestingly, the Taliban had previously secured keys, enabling them to unlock the cells of their allies. As the prisoners emerged, minibuses were strategically placed, ready to whisk them away from the high-security vicinity. There's speculation that some prison officials might have been compromised, either through bribes or due to shared ideologies, to aid the operation. The audacity of building such a lengthy tunnel, complete with advanced ventilation, and the fact that it went unnoticed is truly astonishing. Number 3. Choi Gap-bok, the Korean Houdini. Choi Gap-bok, a 53-year-old with a criminal history spanning over 2 decades, is not just familiar with the insides of a jail cell, but is also a skilled yoga practitioner. A quarter of a century ago, Choi made his first escape by maneuvering through the bars of a prisoner transport bus, though he was recaptured within 48 hours. Over the years, Choi dedicated a significant amount of his jail time to mastering yoga. This dedication would aid his extraordinary escape on September 17, 2012. As the prison guards dozed off, Choi craftily set up his pillows beneath a blanket to give the illusion that he was asleep, smearing his body with lotion to minimize friction. He astonishingly wriggled through the small food tray slot of his cell, achieving freedom. However, his liberty was short-lived, as he was caught 6 days after and then put in a cell with an even smaller slot. This tale proves that yoga can be more than just a form of relaxation for some. Number 2. Sobibor Nazi Germany Death Camp. During the grim days of World War II, the Nazis had a chilling rule. For every individual who tried to escape their death camps, 10 others would be executed as a deterrent. By 1943, whispers emerged suggesting the Nazis' plans to shut down the camps, killing all inmates in the process. In Sobibor, 2 prisoners, Leon Feldhendler and Alexander Pechersky, determined that risking death in an escape bit was preferable to a certain end in a gas chamber. Their strategy was ambitious and desperate: instigate a mass uprising, overpower the SS officers, and trust that the Ukrainian guards in the ensuing chaos would back off. On the fateful day of October 14, 1943, they managed to isolate and eliminate 9 SS officers and 2 guards. However, their plan took a tragic turn when one of the dead officers was discovered, prompting an alert. As the breakout unfolded, nearly 200 of the 400 escaping prisoners were gunned down. In retaliation, the Nazis massacred the remaining inmates and shut down the facility. Astonishingly, against all odds, 58 of those who escaped lived to see the war's end. Number 1. Frank Abagnale. The infamous scam artist, depicted by Leonardo DiCaprio in the movie Catch Me If You Can, pulled off multiple deceits, including bank scams and assuming the roles of pilots, attorneys, and medics to elude capture. In 1969, an observant Air France crew member identified him and tipped off the authorities. This led to his incarceration in both French and Swedish facilities for half a year each, followed by his extradition to the US. Upon landing at JFK Airport, Abagnale made a bold escape from the aircraft, fleeing towards Canada, though his freedom was short-lived. Remarkably, in 1971, he managed another breakout from a federal prison in Atlanta, Georgia. A friend provided Abagnale with counterfeit credentials, suggesting he was an undercover prison inspector. With this, he managed to dupe the prison staff into believing he was on a covert mission and required immediate communication with the FBI. Falling for the ruse, they permitted him to make a call. Seizing the moment, Abagnale walked out, entered a waiting vehicle, and sped off.